Good evening, New York. This is J. Jonah Jameson, and tonight's top story, Spider-Man has written a cookbook. Our friendly neighborhood menace is taking a break from wrecking our city to wrecking your taste buds. Why don't you stick to swinging through the streets, Spidey, and leave the cooking to the professionals? New York deserves better than your web of culinary catastrophes. Hey! Why the hell am I on here? I did not give you permission to use my pretty face. Get my lawyers on the line. I'll see you in court, Spidey. But in the meantime, here's an honest and totally unbiased Daily Bugle review of Spider-Man, the official cookbook.
Spider-Man, the official cookbook, with text by Jermaine McLaughlin, recipes by Paul Eschbach, and contributing recipes from Vaughn Diaz, is a friendly neighborhood guide to the cuisine of Spider-Man's home base, the Big Apple itself, New York City, featuring more than 60 recipes inspired by all 5 boroughs of the NYC. Thank you to Inside Editions for sending me this review copy. According to the intro, the recipes from this book are compiled by Spider-Man himself, sharing his favorite food and stories across all of his web-swinging adventures throughout New York, even including multiversal versions of himself. There's a chapter here for each of the 5 boroughs, each with recipes inspired by those areas, so it really does aim to be a love letter to NYC cuisine. Each recipe entry starts with some flavor text that usually refers back to Spider-Man's past adventures, with many references to friends and foes from the comics, which many Spidey fans will appreciate. Those stories are then somehow tied to the featured recipe, but to be honest, I find the connection between the stories and the food to be very loose, feeling almost shoehorned. Now, in terms of food, the recipes draw from the iconic foods that New York is known for. Expect a lot of street food and deli fare. There's also a lot of food representing the various ethnic groups in New York's neighborhood, so expect a lot of Italian American, Latino, and Asian influences. I found that the recipe selection heavily leans on New York influences rather than Spider-Man lore. The visuals throughout the cookbook are a nice mix of New York City iconography mixed with many illustrations from the Spider-Man comics. The page styles have that New York subway map feel, and that's interspersed with lots of drawings of many different Marvel characters and different art styles found in the many years of Spider-Man stories. Now let's web swing onto the kitchen because either my spider senses are tingling or my stomach is grumbling. Let's go make 3 dishes from the Spider-Man cookbook to see if it's a swing or a miss. We start in a New York borough near and dear to Spider-Man's early career, Queens, where we will be grabbing a few Jamaican beef patties to snack on. Apparently, there was a Jamaican bakery in Queens, a chef that gave a young Spider-Man samples when he was still trying to figure out how to carry money in his spandex. For these patties, to start, mix 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of Jamaican curry powder, a tablespoon of turmeric powder, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt thoroughly. Transfer to a food processor, then add 1.5 cups of diced cold butter and process until pea-sized crumbs form. Kinda like this, I guess? Then pour in a tablespoon of vinegar and a 3/4 cup of ice-cold water, then stir until a dough forms. Then transfer all of that dough to a clean surface and knead until smooth and round. Use a rolling pin to flatten the dough to about a 1/4 inch thickness, then use a 6 to 8 inch cutter to punch out approximately 12 rounds. Then dust each of them lightly with flour. Arrange them all on parchment or wax paper and set aside in a cool place or the fridge. Now to prepare the filling, melt 4 tablespoons of butter in a large rondeau or saute pan. Saute a cup of minced sweet onion over medium heat until translucent and tender. Then add 1 pound of ground beef and cook over medium-high heat for about 10 minutes using a spoon to break up the meat completely. Once the beef is browned, add a teaspoon of fresh thyme, a teaspoon of ginger powder, and 1.5 tablespoons of Jamaican curry powder. Then fry these up for about 2 minutes until fragrant. After that, stir in 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a 1/2 cup of beef broth, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of Scotch bonnet hot sauce to taste. Mix in 1/2 cup of panko crumbs, season with some salt and pepper, and mix until just combined. Let the filling cool and the pastry shells come to room temperature, then spoon the filling in the center of the pastry, fold it over into half circles, and seal the edges together by pinching them closed with a fork. Crack a couple of eggs in a small bowl, then brush those over each patty. Finally, pop these in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes until golden. Remove from the oven and enjoy your freshly baked Jamaican beef patties.
Jamaican patties. Can't you buy that for a couple of dollars in the corner? Looks like Spider-Man wants you to waste your time and your money.
Next up, we head to the island of Manhattan for lunch to have a nice warm bowl of vegan pho. Apparently, this was recommended to Spider-Man by Juggernaut, who has developed a love for pho. Who would have thought? In a large pot, combine 8 cups of vegetable stock with a quarter cup of dried shiitake mushrooms, a quarter cup of thinly sliced ginger, a cinnamon stick, 2 pieces of star anise, and half a bunch of sliced scallions. Bring to a simmer on the stove, then immediately turn off the heat. Add 6 stems of Thai basil, just the stems, and let steep for 10 minutes. Strain the broth into a separate bowl, pressing to extract all the liquid from the shiitakes and scallions. Keep the broth warm and season with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and salt to taste. In a mixing bowl, mix together 1 1/4 cup of sliced fresh shiitakes, 1 1/2 cups of sliced fresh oyster mushrooms, and a pack of trimmed beach mushrooms. Season with 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Spread them on a non-stick baking tray and roast these in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately 10 minutes, and keep warm. In another pot, bring 8 cups of water to a boil, remove from the heat, and add in 1 16-ounce pack of pho noodles and make sure they are fully submerged. Then let them sit until just softened, about 4 minutes. Drain the noodles and place some in a bowl. Whatever noodles you don't use, you can rinse them in cold water and store them in an airtight container for later use. Reheat the broth until simmering, then arrange 1 quadrant with the roasted mushroom mixture and another with bean sprouts. In the remaining space, add scallions and a few Thai basil leaves. Pour 3 cups of hot broth over each bowl of noodles. Serve with hoisin sauce, sriracha, lime wedges, and extra Thai basil on the side for your vegan pho. I honestly cannot decide if I like pho or ramen more. Are you team pho or are you team ramen? Let me know in the comments.
Oh, all of a sudden, Spider-Man is an expert on Southeast Asian cuisine. Quick, I want a list of everyone in New York who works in a vegan Vietnamese restaurant. I'm about to find you, Spider-Man.
Our last stop is the Bronx, where we'll be deserting on some cannoli. According to the book, Spider-Man found this recipe when he ran into the personal chef of Caesar Cicero when Spidey broke into his Bronx mansion. Is it just me, or are these cookbook stories reaching hard? Begin with a filling by combining 16 ounces of ricotta, a half cup of powdered sugar, the zest of 1 orange, a teaspoon of vanilla paste, and half a teaspoon of cinnamon powder in a mixer. Whip until the mixture is smooth and airy, resembling a light frosting. Remove the whisk and gently fold in a half cup of mini milk chocolate chips using a spatula until the filling is evenly mixed. Transfer the filling into a piping bag, cutting a hole approximately a 3/4 inch wide at the bottom. Insert the piping bag halfway into the first cannoli shell from the left side, filling half of the shell, then repeat the process from the other side. Fill all of the remaining cannoli shells in the exact same way. Use another 4 tablespoons of mini chocolate chips to garnish each open end of the cannoli. Finish by dusting the cannoli with a tablespoon of powdered sugar, and it's time for a sweet treat.
First the Jamaicans, then the Vietnamese, now he's gonna insult the Italians too. You can travel all over the world, Spidey, but you're not gonna find one soul dumb enough to try your food. Nobody.
Alright, time to try this food. I got a good feeling about these beef patties. Golden and beautiful in color and smells amazing, and it tastes even better than it looks. Way better than store-bought patties in so many ways. First, there's way more filling, bursting at the seams with meat, and it's the perfect filling to crust ratio. Second, the filling texture is incredible. Meatier and less pasty, but still super moist as the breadcrumbs absorb all of the moisture and flavor. It's got a nice kick to it, but since I'm a spicy addict, I'll probably make it spicier if I make this again, and it's almost certain that I will. Maybe instead of Jamaican curry powder, I'll use Indian curry powder, which I think is supposed to be spicier. I tried to add some hot sauce, but it's just way better mixed in the filling. When I think of Spider-Man, I don't really think of beef patties, but am I glad I tried this one because this is the best beef patty I've ever had. Now my expectations are sky high for this vegan pho. And you know what? It's not bad. Smell-wise, it has that same Thai basil aroma that you know and love from pho. The broth is savory yet clean tasting, but as usual, pho's gotta be seasoned with the good stuff, so I'm gonna add some hoisin, sriracha, and lime in there. Aw yeah, so warm and comforting with layers of flavors. I really don't mind this at all, but I still do prefer OG pho with a broth infused with umami flavorings from the beef bones and meat drippings. The mushrooms do a good job of substituting the meaty mouthfeel, but I still miss those thin, tender slices of meat and the gelatinous tendon. But for a vegan alternative, not bad at all. Let's cap this meal off with these cannolis. These look picture perfect. Biting into it, I love the contrast of crunchy and creamy, very orange forward, which makes it smell and taste amazing and matches the chocolate very well. Also much easier to make than I thought, but then again this recipe called for pre-made shells, which I'm sure sped up the process quite a bit. When I made more of these during the week, I just made them with half the filling because I usually find cannolis to be a bit too rich for my liking. I love how when you make cannolis at home, you can control the ratio and even alter the flavor profiles to your liking. Mint chocolate chip cannolis, is that a thing? I'ma try that next time. So is the Spider-Man Cookbook any good? Theme-wise, I think the book and its stories are doing some heavy stretching to web together the theme and the food. I see this more of a New York book rather than a Spider-Man book, but damn, the food is tasty. Make sure to try those patties.